East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the Internet with our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And joining me today, as she usually does on Fridays, but yes, this is Thursday, so a little switcheroo here, is my very good friend Anna Little. Anna, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Glad to be with you, Rick.
Great to have you with us, Anna. And Anna, I know for the past couple of months or so you've been talking about a very important issue about a Christian lady whose life was being threatened because she refused to give up her Christian beliefs, and we got some very good news on this story, Anna. So please tell us.
Yes, we do. Listeners, I am really excited to announce to you that Miriam Ibrahim has left Sudan safely, has arrived in Italy, and has met with the Pope today. If you want the details, you can Google the Sudanese woman, and it will show up. The news is buzzing with it, and there is a beautiful picture of Pope Francis, who is making the sign of the cross on her head, and she is holding her youngest child in her arms. It is a beautiful sight to see. So I'm very, very pleased to report that to you today.
And I have to believe that people's opinions and people speaking out had to have something to do with the fact that she has been released.
I am sure that it did. As a matter of fact, I remember noting in the midst of this controversy and crisis for the Miriam Ibrahim and her family, I remember noting that the Sudanese government actually responded via social media and responded to mainstream media relative to the things that we have been posting about our condemnation of their behavior and of their treatment of this woman and the freedom of religion generally in their country. So I think, yes, listeners, we have participated in this, and so therefore we should be celebrating with Miriam and with her family today, and we should certainly continue to be vigilant because, you know, the fight for religious freedom is never over. Mm-hmm. And right now, as we speak in the Middle East, ISIS is marking Christian homes with a letter. I'll see if I can't send that to you via the Facebook messaging, and we'll see if we can get it on the website. But there is a marking that is being placed today on Christian homes throughout the Middle East. It is a mark that we should stand in solidarity with, and you'll notice that some people on social media are using this particular mark as a profile to stand in solidarity with our Christian brothers and sisters who are being persecuted, but they're being marked for death right now, Rick, in the Middle East, much as the Jews and others were marked for death during the Holocaust. And it seems that our leadership in this government, the United States of America, has not learned enough from the Holocaust because, again, we are stepping back, we are not getting involved, we're trying to pretend it's a local issue, and it's not. This is genocide, it is religious discrimination, and it's a forcible death for failing to change your religion at the direction of a government official. This cannot be allowed. in our day and age anywhere in this world. And the United States has a responsibility to stand up. We saw what happened in the Holocaust during World War II when we did not stand up early enough. How many were persecuted? How many were killed for their faith, for identifying truthfully with who they are, religiously and spiritually? We cannot allow this to ever happen again. As the Jews, in response to the Holocaust, say, never again. We must stand and say, never again for any religion should this be permitted to happen. And it is happening today on our watch, listeners. So just because we're celebrating with Miriam Ibrahim and her family doesn't mean this is over. We now need to pick up and carry the torch for all of those Christians who are being discriminated against and killed today throughout the world, especially in the Middle East, with ISIS, a full-blown army on the run there.
All right. Very interesting. Very interesting. And you're right, Anna. It just seems like Christianity and Judaism is under attack. And who are the perpetrators of this attack? And I got to interrupt for Brent. I got no internet. Do I need a password and a username here?
No, you don't have to.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't get on. Anna, just to give you a clue that I am not able to connect to the internet today, which is lovely. So just give you that.
Okay, so we'll voice cue, that's all.
Yeah.
Listeners, this is live radio.
It's live radio. It's live radio. I might have to switch computers, throw Brett out of his chair and get in his chair. But, Anna, it's just all around the world, you know, it's so reminiscent of what happened in the mid to late 1930s in Germany, how Judaism and Christianity is being attacked from the secular world, from the Islamic world. It's just people, if you don't remember history, if you don't know history, you are doomed to repeat it. So here we go. What a shame.
It is a shame. And in this country, we have to stand up for our principles, and we need to do so worldwide. And when it comes to matters between life and death, the items, they're human rights. Look, freedom of religion is a human right. The taking of someone's life arbitrarily based on their religious beliefs, and these are not criminals. These are ordinary people, and all they want to do is worship their God. This can't be tolerated in this world right now, and America has got to take the lead on this issue.
All right. And we got about 2.5 minutes to our next break. Anything else on your radar screen?
Well, I am watching Ukraine. We are under notice that the Prime Minister of Ukraine has resigned. Apparently, the coalition that has been running the Ukrainian government since the former president was ousted by Parliament, by the people of Ukraine through their representatives in Parliament, that coalition is beginning to break apart. Two parties were going to pull out of the coalition. And so in response to that, Ukrainian minister has decided to resign. I'm not sure what the developments are past that point. We're going to have to keep watching this. But I think all eyes be on Ukraine. Obviously, what's going on over there now affects all of us in the fact that the commercial jet has been shot down. We're still investigating all the details on that. We've had certainly military planes shot down with no specific word as to the well-being of those pilots. So, it's certainly escalating, and there is no way that this can be explained except by support by Russia. So we've got to put the pressure on Putin, and apparently the EU has increased sanctions. So I think, there is a world response here to what's going on in Ukraine. So we have to keep our eyes on Ukraine.
All right. And with that, Anna Little, we will go into our break, and you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, around the world on the Internet with our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And now you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Check out our websites, Conservative Commandos Radio Show and ccrshow.com. Ann and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Our view for conservative values and issues take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos Radio Show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and yours truly, Rick Trader. And a program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, please log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. That's vigilantlibertyradio.us. And if you'd like to hear a repeat broadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m., just as we end our live broadcast today, please log on to cprworldwidemedia.com, cprworldwidemedia.com. And don't forget, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. So, Anna Little, we got a great show lined up for our listeners today. Why don't we go over our schedule?
Okay. Well, I get the honor of speaking with our first guest, David Harsanyi. He's a senior editor at The Federalist and a nationally syndicated columnist and author of The People Have Spoken and They Are Wrong. The case against democracy. His work has appeared in Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Weekly Standard, National Review, Reason, New York Post, and other publications. He's also appeared on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, NPR, ABC World News Tonight, NBC Nightly News, other radio talk shows, and of course the highlight of that is going to be his appearance today on the Conservative Commandos radio show. He's going to talk to us today about Elizabeth Warren, who is another presidential hopeful and could be a likely Democratic nominee for president, and he's saying she's overrated. And he's going to explain to us why the progressive favorite is a downer. So I think we'll all be very interested to hear about that as we gear up for the 2016 presidential election. And then at 4:35, I get the first and the last guest. At 4:35, I get to speak to one of our favorite guests, Rick, David Hoegberg. He's a healthcare policy analyst for the National Center for Public Policy Research, and he previously was Washington correspondent for Investors Business Daily. He specialized in coverage of healthcare and Medicare, and he had also worked as a policy analyst studying healthcare and other issues for various think tanks, including the National Center for Public Policy Research and for the Office of Representative Jeff Fortenberry. And he's going to talk to us today about Halbig versus Burwell, which was a D.C. Circuit Court case where the Circuit Court actually correctly noted that there was no evidence of congressional intent relative to subsidies by federal taxpayers for Obamacare policy premiums if they were not put through state exchanges. This is a fatal flaw, we believe, to the Obamacare legislation, because without these subsidies, the premiums are certainly not affordable, and Americans will not be able to maintain them, and I believe the law will collapse. Well, David Hoegberg, who is much better schooled on the issue, is actually going to talk to us about this today. So, listeners, you need to stay tuned through the entire show, because David Hoegberg is going to be our final guest.
All right, and in the 4 o'clock half hour, Anna, we're expecting to hear from Congressman Paul Brown. He's a primary care physician who represents the 10th Congressional District in Georgia, and, of course, all of us across America in the U.S. House of Representatives. And Congressman Brown is going to be joining us to talk about an op-ed that he has published in the Washington Times entitled "Bordering on a Policy Failure. White House is overwhelmed by the children's surge it triggered." So we're going to be talking with Congressman Paul Brown, Dr. Paul Brown, about, I believe he visited the border. I call them the Obama orphanages or the Obama concentration camps, and he visited them. So we're going to get his views on what's going on down on the border with the thousands and thousands of unaccompanied children that are coming up from Central and South America, Mexico, and everywhere else. So, Anna, we do have a great show lined up for our listeners, and we got about 3 minutes before we have to take our next break. Anything else on your radar screen?
Well, I do want to point out to you and to the listeners that I have found the article that has the most possible detail at this point on what's going on in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Apparently, it's the Prime Minister and the Cabinet who are resigning, and they will stand on as an acting government until elections are held in October. that's kind of a relief there, that at least there's going to be some continuity until the people...
Yeah, that's what my thought was, Anna. Gee, there's enough problems going on in that part of the world. The fact that if the Prime Minister resigns, I believe two of the parties that were also in this coalition, they pulled out. There's enough problems over there in Ukraine. We don't need a vacuum of government.
Right, so there won't be a vacuum of government. The same article, though, does talk about the Malaysian Airlines crash, or I believe it was deliberately shot down.
Sure. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious now that it was shot down by a Russian missile. Who fired it? Probably.
The U.S. has evidence that Russia is firing into Ukraine, so Russia's being pulled into this deliberately, I think, by the media, because we need to put pressure on them to cut it out. So I think this article is very important. It's at CNN.com, which is not my favorite news outlet, but it is there. And if you were just to Google Ukraine, it'll come up. It was posted 3 hours ago.
All right. Very interesting. And, boy, what troubling times we live in, and a little, and I keep repeating this. The night of the election, the night of the presidential election in November 2012, when we got the result that Barack Obama had been reelected, I said to anyone who would listen, this is a terrible night for my country, but it's a terrific night for my radio show. We're going to have a lot to talk about for the next 4 years. And, Anna, sometimes it hurts when you're right. And that was one of the cases where I was right, but it was not a very good thing to be right about.
Yeah, well, I think the vacuum in leadership here in the U.S., or the weak leadership or lack thereof by our president and his administration, has certainly contributed to the situation worldwide. There's no mistaking that. And I think America now needs to realize, experiencing this, and turn it around. We've got to realize that we have a leadership role in world politics. And what we say does make a difference. And when we don't step forward, this is the kind of nonsense that goes on. So, we really do have to remedy this. And, of course, we the people are in charge, listeners. So we've got to go out and tell our friends and neighbors, and we have got to turn the tide here. We've done it on the pro-life issues. We're doing it on Obamacare. I believe we are definitely doing it with regard to First Amendment rights. I think it is very important that we now do it with regard to international affairs, so that we can save ourselves from World War III, which I believe has begun already.
Oh, boy, I hope not, Anna. My gosh.
Yeah. It's already.
No one wants to live through that. No one wants to live through anything like that, Anna. Hey, Anna, we got about 30 seconds to a break, and I wanted to report on this. This is just coming, of course, across from Reuters. Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives on Thursday took another step towards authorizing a lawsuit against Barack Obama, claiming he was overstepping his executive powers. A bipartisan vote of 7-4, the House Rules Committee approved the legislation, likely setting up for a consideration by the full House next week. The Republican initiative already has spawned a bitter debate with Democrats less than 4 months before elections that will determine the political control of Congress next year. Hey, Anna, we're going to go to break right now. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia. The way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away. Ann and I will be back with our first guest.
Yeah, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, The Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Our view for conservative values and issues. Take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers. "9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation. If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet. Anna Little, we do have our first guest of the day with us. Will you please make the introduction?
I would be honored to do so, Rick. Listeners, we are going to be speaking this segment with David Harsanyi. He's a senior editor at The Federalist and a nationally syndicated columnist and author of The People Have Spoken and They Are Wrong, The Case Against Democracy. Harsanyi's work has appeared in Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Weekly Standard, National Review, Reason, New York Post, and numerous other publications. David has appeared on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, NPR, ABC World News Tonight, NBC Nightly News, and dozens of radio talk shows across the country, now including Conservative Commandos Radio Show. David, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you because we're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren, and I love the title here, that she's overrated and why she's a downer. Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of progressives are looking for an alternative to Hillary, considering her, her background and her history and how her earnestness is not exactly there. So they were looking for someone, and they're looking towards Elizabeth Warren, who sort of embodies all those progressive ideas, and it would be a more makes more sense, I guess, as our next president if you're a progressive and you want to continue down the road that Obama has gone. But I think what people aren't considering is that she's actually not that a very good politician, and also that her populism probably has limitations that Obama's didn't have in 2008. And I think that they overrate her on both counts, policy and politics.
Do you think this is an effort on the part of the far left progressive movement within the Democratic Party to select the nominee? And why Warren? Do you think maybe they're trying to stay with the theme that it must be a woman this time?
Well, I think I'm so sure that's part of it, that she's a woman, but I think that also she is probably, frankly, the best spokesperson for, or I should say not the best spokesperson, but she is more reflective of what's going on in the Democratic Party right now than Hillary Clinton is, because what's been working for them, or working better than other things, is that they are using this progressive populist rhetoric on economic issues and inequality. And when you have someone like Hillary Clinton who's pulling in, $200,000 a speech, it gets a little tough to throw that around and to be convincing about it. I think that Elizabeth Warren is far more revved up, and there's an earnestness about her ideology that you don't find with the Clintons, or at least that's the theory. I'm not sure, though, she's as good as they think. But definitely, it's something that progressives would want, for sure.
Well, let's talk about these progressive populist type themes that they're trying to put forward. I mean, they're talking about minimum wage, food service workers who, of course, we're very respectful of anyone that holds a job, and everyone is necessary. But these are not careers that most people aspire to. There's not a lot of excitement about, graduating high school and moving on to that job. I mean, it just seems to me like we're talking to kind of the lower portion of the economic spectrum, and I'm wondering what that's about. I mean, is this what Americans really look forward to, growing up and being a food service worker? I mean, I'm not putting it down, but I am saying, is that everybody's dream? Or is that just a necessary means for making money to make ends meet for most folks that work in that job? I don't know.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that job, but for most people, I think, dream a little bigger than that job, or one would hope, and I don't think that that's being too judgmental. The thing is, when the economy was poor, and the economy still isn't doing very well, but when we're in really bad shape, I think these sorts of populist messages, the minimum wage, which most people in polls support, but how important is it in their lives and in their political lives? I'm not sure. And I think as the economy improves, the inequality arguments, the populist arguments are not going to be have as much impact as they did before. And more than that, I think when Obama sort of intertwined the smaller arguments with the broader arguments, everyone's going to get health care, for instance, I think that's far more powerful than what Elizabeth Warren has, which is all small. She was at the Netroots Nation conference, and she was talking about she had her 11 commandments of progressivism, one more commandment than God, which is pretty funny, but none of them really took on middle-class problems and the problems that most voters have. It essentially concentrated on the poor, and that's important, but I'm not sure if it's enough.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about those 11 commandments. First of all, she's using a very distinctive word, commandments. I don't think it's used anyplace else. Is she trying to one-up God? Is she trying to say that, the progressive agenda is bigger and more important than religion? Or is she just trying to infer a religious theme and attach it to the progressive's agenda? I mean, why go there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I doubt she's trying to one-up God, but I definitely think that she thinks these commandments are more important than any others. So, she definitely thinks that these commandments are more important than the Constitution or the rule of law or economic reality. And there's sort of embedded, this ideology in progressivism. It has a religious feel to it. I'm not a religious person, but to me, when she speaks, she's worse than any sort of person sermonizing to me that I can imagine from the social conservative side. So there's always been a little bit of that, and I think that that's appealing to a lot of progressives, and she certainly has that. Is she trying to attack God? I'm not sure. Who knows what she's doing? But it just struck me as humorous that there were 11 and God could only come up with 10.
Hey, Anna and David, we're up against a break. David, could you hold for just 2 minutes?
Sure.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and of course around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is David Harnessy. He's a senior editor at The Federalist, and we're discussing an article that he has up on The Federalist entitled Elizabeth Warren is Overrated. We'll be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And a program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, please log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And at 5 p.m., when our live show ends, you can log on to CPRworldwidemedia.com to hear a replay of yesterday's show. Our guest this segment is David Harsanyi. Sorry, I messed up your name there, David. He's a senior editor at The Federalist, and we're talking about Elizabeth Warren being overrated. David, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
David, as you mentioned, she was at the Netroots Nation conference this past weekend in Detroit, and she really revved up the crowd with chants of "Run, Liz, run." David, other than being even more liberal than Hillary Clinton, if that's possible, what makes anyone think that Elizabeth Warren, who is in her first term in the United States Senate, makes her the best person to be president? After all, we have a man right now in the White House that came out of the Senate with very little experience. And David, how's that working out so far?
Not very well from my perspective. I would say that that doesn't mean, what I should say is I wrote a book about the case against democracy, so I'm not sure that I think that the electorate's going to put the best person in the White House.
Doesn't seem to anymore.
Yeah, but she is a first-term senator. She's older than people think in the sense that she's only a year younger than Hillary, so she won't have many chances to run either. Mm-hmm. But I think they just like her ideology in the same way they liked Obama's ideology, and they also feel like Hillary's not going to excite the base in the way that Warren would. But I have to say, I think it's sort of an invention of the media and a few groups, because there is no support there yet. Mm-hmm. And that all said, I thought Hillary was going to be the nominee in 2008, and obviously I was wrong. So you never know. There's no invincibility when it comes to politics.
In fact, you say that exactly at the end of your piece, and I'll quote from it. But for anyone believes Democrats have another 2008 Obama on their hands, they haven't really taken time to listen to Elizabeth Warren. But the ones that have listened to Warren are saying that, we need her because she's more progressive than Hillary Clinton. And we're talking about the same Hillary Clinton who come out of the Saul Alinsky School of Politics. It's, how far left can this woman be?
Well, she's pretty left. I think Hillary is a little more, I think she'll land wherever she needs to win. And I think that Warren is more earnest about her opinions. I think she's probably an ideological progressive, not just because she wants to be president, but because that's what she is. And I think it's hard to, it's hard to fake people out. And, so I think that, we've probably gone pretty far left in this country as far as who we're willing to elect as president, clearly. Are we willing to go that far? I suspect that that's not the case. And I think even within the Democratic Party, you'll see people lining up for Hillary, because I think they know that Warren probably can't win. And trust me, I think Hillary's far left enough.
Hey, Ann, I'm going to throw it back to you, but Ann, a little, it seems to me what people have heard most about Elizabeth Warren is how she lied or really stretched the truth when she talked about her Native American heritage when she was running for the Senate.
Yeah, I believe that is what we remember about her. And, you know, I think we have to also try to make the case that perhaps all of the exposure of the weaknesses of Hillary Clinton in the effort that we have made to expose what went on in Benghazi, and as you say, as to show the connection between the Saul Alinsky School of Politics and Hillary and the connection with Obama, I think that there's a reaction on the left to that as well. I'm going to give it back to our guests to talk about that, but it sure feels good to see them shifting away from Hillary after we've had such a field day by way of congressional hearings and whatnot, trying to get her to give up the truth, and she still has not done so. David, do you think that has something to do with it?
Well, I think Benghazi is going to be obviously a big topic, but you know, I guess their thinking might be for people who support Hillary that, you know, she's been around a long time and we've gone through her whole history and that we've already spoken about all these things and they're going to seem old and stale. But it seems like, to me at least, with the Clintons, there's always something new to talk about that's interesting, and perhaps they don't feel the same way with Elizabeth Warren. And I'm happy you brought up her Indian heritage controversy because, you know, I don't think it's a giant deal, but it does speak to the sort of person she probably is and the sort of things that she will do to move ahead. And I think that will hurt her because it will chip away a little bit at her authenticity. You know, so I think that Hillary's going to have to deal with Benghazi, and it's going to be, I think, tougher than they believe. But that doesn't mean she's going to give in, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, David, Anna, let me jump in for a minute. David, talking about Elizabeth Warren's Native American ancestry, I think the point is not that she just claims to have it. Heck, I claim to have it because I have a little bit of Native American or Indian blood in me, but didn't she use that to and I don't, the facts are a little vague in my mind right now, but didn't she use that to get into college or get an appointment or something?
I think I think she used it to apply for a position as a professor. I forget exactly where she lied about it, but I think it was to become a professor, and she lied. I'm not sure if she got the job because of it or not, but you know, she's been a bureaucrat for her whole career. I'm not sure if that made her, you know, helped her, you know, move forward in her career, on her career track. But either way, she probably lied about it, and I think that's worth talking about. If you want to be president, I think you know, you'll lie when you get in office, but I think we should be able to see how honest you are. I think that matters.
Yeah, I do too, David. After all, we have a man in the White House right now that people don't know very much about his past. Can't find his past. His past is sealed up, and you know, I think just what we're dealing with right now with the man in the White House that we have should just show people how important elections really are.
Of course.
Yeah, well, I think you're right, and I think the importance of the election is underscored in the economic results of the administration's policy, and I think that's the theme that isn't coming out in any of these Democratic mantras. They're talking about raising a minimum wage, then they go right into the environment, right? They want to, with regard to the minimum wage, they have to mention Wall Street, because if they don't talk about the inequality, well, then they're going to get blamed for this economy. Isn't the economy the issue?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like because of cultural divides we've become so entrenched in our own positions that nothing can really shake us out of them. So I'm not sure how things change. I mean, I think these presidential elections, obviously very important, are sort of micro-focused on a few people whose minds can be changed, and there are fewer and fewer people like that. I think many voters fool themselves, and I read about this in my book, to believe that So if the economy's terrible, they don't blame Barack Obama, they blame Congress. And if, and when things are reversed later on, they'll blame, they'll blame the Democratic Congress, or the Republican president. So it's really difficult. But yeah, I think in the long run, economics matter because that's something that personally affects you in a very personal way. Obviously, your family and your business. These are things that are important to people. But the more people that rely on government, the less the economy matters because they're not being thrown around by a bad economy because government. Like I live in Washington, and our unemployment rate's always low here because government is here, and the more and more people who are part of that, the less the economy matters, I think, in elections. I was a little bit all over there. What I think
is notably missing here, though, David, is I don't see any discussion about education here.
Oh, and Elizabeth Taylor's 11 Commandments?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess not. Their educational policy is no reform. So they want immigration reform, and they want, banking reform, but not, or did I mess that? Yeah, immigration, but they don't want education reform. So, yeah, I mentioned that nothing in there is geared towards the middle class. It's all geared about lifting the poor, which is a fine thing to want to do, even though I think her prescriptions are terrible. But in the end, to win elections, you have to appeal to the middle class. Barack Obama, as much as we may dislike him, appealed to the middle class in 2008 for sure, using that kind of populist rhetoric to make it sound as if those policies would lift everyone. And they haven't done that. But Elizabeth Warren, nothing she says is aimed at the middle class, in my estimation. So I don't see how she has any crossover appeal to even that micro group that's minds can be changed, and independents and even some Republicans. I just don't think that she can appeal to those people.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that, she seems to be talking to the lower economic group and no one else. And it seems that if that's what we're going to aspire to be, well, then the socialism aspect of the progressive movement's agenda just pops into my mind. Because that is what it is, lowest common denominator, and everybody has to feed into that, fuel that. And, I think that it's, as you've noted, it appears to me that this is much more indicative of what we've been describing as the progressive agenda. And perhaps by Elizabeth Warren stepping up, we're going to be able to point to it more clearly than we could with Hillary. So maybe you're correct about that. Any last parting thoughts before we have to close out the segment?
Well, I think that you're right, and I think that Elizabeth Warren is far more. She reflects, I think, where many activist Democrats are today, and that's far left on economics at least, and on other issues as well, but certainly on economics, far more left than Obama leads on and others lead on. So I think she would be the natural pick for Democrats as far as her ideology goes. Hillary will change to whatever position she needs because I think she just wants to be president. Elizabeth Warren, I think, is far more earnest about her positions, as I mentioned. So I think, though she's not a great politician, she's a more honest one.
Okay, well, that's very, very interesting, David. David, remind our listeners where they can go to read more of your writings and to follow your work.
Well, my work's at The Federalist. It's also syndicated, so it's sometimes, Town Hall or Reason Magazine, places like that, and newspapers. And you can follow me on Twitter at David Harsanyi.
Okay, that sounds great. David, thank you so much for spending this time with us, and we hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Listeners, you have been...
Wait a minute, Adam. We're not quite ready to go to break in, and I think it's very important that we discuss all the potential Democrat candidates out there. Everyone thinks, Hillary Clinton's got this one wrapped up. She's got it in the bag. I think people thought that in 2008 also. But we have to expose Elizabeth Warren. I think we're also going to have to expose Governor Jerry Moonbeam Brown out in California. He's making rumblings and grumblings about running as is Joe Biden. Hey, Anna, now we will take that break, and you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and Vigilant Liberty VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment, and it is protected by the Second. Be right back with Congressman Paul Brown.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Our view for conservative values and issues, take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos Radio Show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers. "9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation. If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. "Give us freedom" was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. And Anna, we do have our next guest with us, Congressman Paul Brown. He's a primary care physician who represents the 10th Congressional District in Georgia and all of us around America. Dr. Brown, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, Rick, it's always a tremendous blessing and pleasure to be with you. Thank you for inviting me to come back and visit with you.
Dr. Brown, you're one of our favorites.
Thank you.
And I sincerely mean that.
Well,
and then, Dr. Brown, whenever things...
One of my favorites, too, because y'all are fighting for liberty and freedom and a different kind of governance, going back to what our founding fathers meant for government to be, and that's guided by the Constitution in its original intent. So I'm just so proud of you and what you do and all your team and trying to educate the American people about what government should be.
Well, Dr. Brown, I'm going to continue this love fest by saying whenever I think things can't get any worse down in Washington, I have to think of yourself and people like Congressman Gohmert and Congressman Bachmann and Congressman King and know that at least there are a few people down in Washington that do have our back. So
yes, sir.
I thank you for that. Congressman Brown, we've asked you to join us today to talk about an op-ed you've had in the Washington Times entitled, "Bordering on a Policy Failure. The White House is overwhelmed by the children's surge it triggered." Congressman Brown, you were just down there on the border. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Homeland Security Committee, which I'm a member of, that committee had a field hearing in McAllen, Texas on July the 3rd. We went to their holding facility where Customs Border Patrol take all these kids and process them, and we had a thorough briefing by the chief of that sector of the border. It's called the Rio Grande Valley sector, or RGV sector, and they're just being overwhelmed by these children. These children are coming here, and they're principally male, they're principally teenagers, and they're coming here, and we got a lot of family units coming also. And what we were told is that the family units basically are processed. They're given a bus ticket to go anywhere in the country, and then just are turned loose. They're given a notice to appear in an immigration court somewhere in the country, and they just disappear. They're going all over this country today, and that's what they're doing with the family units. And then if there is a kid that comes that's not accompanied by an adult, then what they do is try within 72 hours to hand this kid over to Health and Human Services, and they are placing these kids either in with their family members anywhere across the country. While they're doing that, they're not checking on the legal status of the family member. And then if they can't find a family member, they're putting them in foster homes. All this is being driven by basically a very loose interpretation of a law that was passed in 2008 that Nancy Pelosi rushed through the Congress just kind of at the late minute when nobody was around to oppose it, and it was passed by voice vote. And that our administration is interpreting this law. That bill was about sex trafficking, but they're applying it to any kid that comes in this country, and we've got to amend that law to make it tighter. And hopefully, we'll have a bill on the floor tomorrow here in the U.S. House to make that bill tighter so that we can start sending these children back to their families in their home countries of origin,
right?
Principally Honduras, Guatemala, as well as El Salvador. So we need to repatriate them back to their countries. We need to reunite them with their families. And then we've got to stop this flow of these illegal children coming in this country that are principally coming here because they think, because of the policies of the Obama administration, that they'll come here, be able to stay, and be able to bring their family members here behind them. And it's just got to stop.
I agree. Congressman Brown, referring to your op-ed in the Washington Times, I mean, this first paragraph is, in my opinion, it's heartbreaking. That you met a Guatemalan woman who spent $28,000 to get herself and each of her 3 young granddaughters into the United States through illegal means. And that the 3 young girls were traumatized, scared, and were crying to their grandmother to please take them back home.
That's right.
And you're right, it was jarring and sad, yet notable because unlike many of the other children in the room, these girls were not traveling alone. Congressman Brown, I can only imagine what these children who are traveling alone are going through. This is a human tragedy, and hardship is being aided and abetted by the Obama administration, strictly, in my opinion, to support a political ideology. And, Congressman, this is a disgrace to our nation.
Absolutely, and these kids are suffering terribly. You have 1 out of 3 young ladies that come to this country through this mechanism, through the magnet that Barack Obama has created, them thinking that they're going to be able to stay here permanently and then being given legal status. 1 out of 3 of these girls are being sexually abused and raped in the process. You're having other kids that are being held ransom, and actually when they pay these drug traffickers, and we've been told by the Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary Jay Johnson, that 100% of these coyotes, the people who are bringing them into the country, bringing them to the country, are part of the drug cartel. But we're being told these kids, after their parents have supplied money to the drug cartel, the drug cartel is telling the parents, you pay us more.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't, we're going to kill your child. And I've been told that some of these kids are having a gun put to their head and told to cut off an ear or a finger of another child. They send the ear or to the parents just so that they can extract more money from them. These kids are being traumatized. They're being brutalized. They're being abused. Every single girl before they take this trip, I'm told, goes and gets birth control pills because expecting to be raped. It's got to stop, and it's all because of failed policy of this administration. And it's just got to stop. And Barack Obama has continued to fuel this. And why? Because it's all about trying to put more people on the government dole so that they can legalize them, as he did with the DACA executive order a couple of years ago. And that's what's created this flood anyway. And these kids and their parents are expecting them to come here, be able to stay here, being able to given permanent legal status, and then the kids are being mistreated tremendously. And also these coyotes are leaving a lot of kids in the desert to just die. They don't care. They have no respect for life whatsoever. And in fact, we talked to some ranchers from Texas, and they're finding dead people on their ranches that are people that are dying and very dehydrated because these coyotes have absolutely no respect for life. It is a human tragedy that's being fueled by this administration for political purposes. It's just got to stop.
Congressman Brown, in a minute, I want to bring my co-host, Anna Little, into this conversation, who is an immigration attorney. Congressman, let's talk for a minute about this Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals Program, this DACA, as you mentioned. And you mentioned that they're bringing up a bill on the floor of Congress tomorrow to repeal this?
Well, they're not going to repeal DACA. We don't know the details of the bill. There's been a lot of discussion over the last few days. In fact, we're going to have a special conference first thing in the morning of all the Republicans at 9 a.m. Our leadership. Well,
that's what scares me, Congressman, when you say all the Republicans. Where are the Democrats on this? I mean, are you getting any Democrat support? And if it gets through the House of Representatives, it then has to go to the Senate. And what I'm asking you is, what is the mood and the attitude down there on the other side? Do they also see this as a problem that needs work?
Yeah, but what they want to do is they want to keep these kids here, which is going to fuel the invasion of these illegal children into this country. And it's that attitude that we keep them here, that we provide legal status for them, that's created this flood of kids, this human disaster that the administration has caused. And it really has started with DACA. We've had basically an open border policy by 4 administrations, both Bush administrations, the Clinton administration, and now this one. We don't have a secure border because of 4 presidents, Republican and Democrat alike. So I blame them too. They don't enforce the laws that were on the books from 1986, passed under the Reagan administration. Under that law, we were supposed to have secured the border. They have 4 presidents that refused to do so. Under that law, 86 law, it was put in place that anyone who rents to, harbors, or hires an illegal alien in this country is guilty of a federal crime. We've had 4 administrations that have not enforced that law either, because all 4 administrations have had open border policy. Let's just let them come, and we won't prosecute them even if we find them here. So it's a policy that has gone amok with presidents and as well as Congress is under both parties' control. But now, because of DACA, we've created this flood of kids because parents think that when their kids come here, they're going to be given legal status. Then you have the chain migration so that the parents and grandparents and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins can all come here. And the Democrats want them to come. They want to legalize them. They want to give them voting rights. They want to put them on welfare programs, on federal largesse, so that they become dependent upon the Democrats so that the Democrats can stay in power. And this is all about power. It's about the Democrats trying to make it so that they control the White House as well as control Congress, and that they have power in their hands. And that's the reason Democrats in Congress are supporting the president, what he's doing.
Here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're speaking with Congressman Paul Brown from the 10th Congressional District of Georgia. And a little, as the congressman said, this problem isn't new. He writes in his article, this problem isn't new. The past 4 administrations, both Republicans and Democrats alike, have failed to adequately secure our border and enforce our laws on the books. But Anna, this administration, unlike the other administrations, is actually encouraging this invasion of our borders. And it's not just children, Anna. It's drug cartels, criminals, and possibly terrorists, Anna.
Well, there's no filter, Rick. And Congressman, I applaud your exposure of this situation and your analysis. It's on point. My day job is that of an immigration attorney, so I do understand the issue very clearly. And, I don't think there's enough focus on the human trafficking aspect of what goes on at the southern border of this country. I think the coyotes who charge, from the accounts I've heard, $10,000 to $15,000 a head, people are in what would be initially described as indentured servitude, and then it becomes an opportunity for extortion to get their loved one released. And, it's just an insane thing to be permitting in the United States of America, which is supposed to be the land of freedom. So, Congressman, I think we have an opportunity here with this crisis with the children to actually expose the whole human trafficking aspect of this and to take a stand to address that. And I don't think you can get any argument from anyone on political means with regard to the trafficking. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're right, Anna, and it's important for us to understand what this is all about. It's from the coyotes' perspective, it's all about money. If you figure whatever amount of money, we were told anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 a person, but then they actually, we were told, are requiring more from the families as well. But what I saw when I was down in McAllen, you have these tremendous amount of kids that are just coming across the Rio Grande River. They're trying to find a border control agent where they can go and give themselves up and say, here we are, when we give ourselves up. And the reason, and they've been instructed to tell the CBP officers that they're trying to escape the drug cartels and the violence within their home countries in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. But then when the Border Patrol agents talk to them further, they're all what the CBP officers are telling us, these kids admitting that they think that they're going to get a permiso, they're going to get a permit to stay here and have legal status here in this country. And the money's coming. Rick was talking about the grandmother and the three darling little girls. They were 7 and 8. They have two moms that I guess are daughters of the grandmother. The grandmother said that these two moms are in Pennsylvania somewhere. She had no idea where. But I asked her, where'd she get the money? Because she said she paid $7,000 each for herself and the three granddaughters. She said she went to the bank and borrowed it, which we know is nothing but a lie. How is any bank going to loan? Is not going to make a loan. Is not going to lend this grandmother $28,000 to come to the United States. There's no way to recover the money. So what the CBP officers are telling us that they're getting money from their parents. Some of them are selling everything that they have in their home country because they are expecting to have legal status here in the United States. So it's a disaster for the families too. When they have this expectation, it all really began, this invasion that's occurring today, it all really began with the tremendous flood with DACA, that Deferred Action on Childhood Alien Children that are coming into this country. And what the president did with that executive order is said that if a kid's here or comes to this country, then we're going to let them stay here. We're going to give them legal status. And that's what's created this. In 2012, I don't think there were but in the whole year, about 6,000 in that whole year. This fiscal year, they expected 90,000. Next year, they expected up to 150,000. This administration has done nothing about it. Back in January, this administration put out an advertisement looking for escorts to take up to 65,000 unaccompanied children somewhere across this country. But they've done nothing to stop it. All they've done is encouraged it.
Well, Congressman, how are we doing on time? Because I want to make sure that we don't get you into a position where you need to go. But I would like to continue to talk to you.
I've got probably 3 or 4 more minutes.
Okay, all right. So we're going to try to finish this up then. But, I think that it is very interesting that you've pointed out that these advertisements contribute to the problem. By asking for escorts, it's almost as if this administration is saying to those who have this misunderstanding, come on in, we'll take care of you when you get here. Is
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, Anna. again, this is the failed policies of this administration that's created this problem, and they're doing nothing whatsoever to deal with it. All they're doing is encouraging it. The CBP officers have been taken off the border and moved back. They're having checkpoints 20 miles inland.
Hey, Congressman, I know you have to go shortly, and I wanted to get this next question in, knowing that you are a primary care physician. Congressman, there's a lot of reports that these children in these Obama concentration orphanages, as I call them, are very sick. That the people that you saw there, the people that you spoke with, did you see any signs of infections or diseases that many of these children and these people are supposedly carrying?
They had some adults as well as children sequestered that they had found have scabies, which is an insect that burrows into the skin. A lot of them have body lice that they found. They just do a very cursory type of health examination on these kids when the CBP officers get them. If they find that they have scabies or body lice, then they sequester them away from the rest of the kids. But a lot of them are very dehydrated. A lot of them are sick. We had questions about tuberculosis. We do know already that some of the people who've come across the border over the last few years are carrying various infectious diseases, and we are seeing an uptick of things such as tuberculosis in this country, and a lot of it is drug-resistant tuberculosis that come from these foreign countries. So it's an attack upon our own citizens' health. But Rick, the thing is, if you look at it, this is a humanitarian crisis. This was created by this administration, and the most humanitarian thing that we could do as a Congress and as a people, as Americans, the most humanitarian thing we could do is to stop this flood of kids, to let them know that they have to stay in their country and that they have to go through if they want to come here, they come through the legal process. And it's absolutely critical for them to know when a family sells everything that they have to send a kid here expecting something that's not going to happen. Well, I'm not sure it's not going to happen because this administration wants to keep them and wants all their family members to come too. So, but they're coming with that expectation, and there's nothing in the law to give them the authority to do so. So the most humanitarian thing we can do is reunite these kids with their families. If we find family members here in this country, for instance, the two moms in Pennsylvania, this grandmother with these three precious little girls, 7 and 8 years of age, that are crying, wanting to go back to Guatemala.
Wow.
Let's send their moms as well as grandma and the three little girls back home and let them grow up in a healthy, happy environment where they should be.
Congressman Brown, one last thing.
Sure.
I wish Barack Obama would go down there and see what he's created. But Dr. Paul Brown, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. You're always so generous with your time, and God bless. And the article can be found on the Washington Times, and it says the article is bordering on a policy failure. The White House is overwhelmed by the children's surge it created. Dr. Paul Brown, again, thank you so much. Take care. God bless. And please give out your website.
It is Brown, BROUN, .house, HOUSE.gov, G-O-V, brown.house.gov.
Great to speak with you again. Take care. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you.
Anna, you know, on Dr. Brown's website, I love this part. He writes, I'm committed to protecting the constitutional rights and pocketbooks of every American. I will apply the four-way test to every piece of legislation that comes before the House for a vote. 1, is it right and moral? 2, is it constitutional? 3, is it necessary? And 4, is it affordable? Anna Little, I wish every member of Congress would adhere to those 4 pillars. But Anna, we're up against a break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios. that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away, and I will be back with our next guest, Dr. David Hoberg.
They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
You know, no one exposes the issues, liberalism, and the mainstream media like the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Our view for conservative values and issues, take positive action to restore them in our country.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos Radio Show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
– 9/11. It's a day that will go down in our history as the most horrific and destructive scene ever to happen on American soil. It will also be, for most Americans who witnessed it either up close or simply watched in horror on TV, America, to participate in a national memorial I call the United Action of Prayer this coming 9/11 and every 9/11 from then on. United Action of Prayer is simply every American stopping whatever they are doing for 1 minute at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or pray in memory for the 9/11 victims and their families, and perhaps a prayer of gratitude for living in a country where even 9/11 could not at all weaken the spirit of our great nation.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And for a rebroadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening Eastern, please log on to VigilantLibertyRadio.us. That's VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And at 5 p.m. this afternoon, if you'd like to hear a repeat broadcast of yesterday's show, log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. Anna Little, we do have our next guest with us, and the honor of the introduction is yours, so please take it away.
Listeners, we are excited to be speaking this segment with David Hoegberg. David is a healthcare policy analyst for the National Center for Public Policy Research. Previously, Dr. Hoegberg was a Washington correspondent for Investors Business Daily, specializing in his coverage of healthcare and Medicare. Prior to IBD, he worked as a policy analyst studying healthcare and other issues for various think tanks, including the National Center for Public Policy Research and for the Office of Representative Jeff Fortenberry. Dr. Hoegberg is a regular contributor here on Conservative Commandos Radio Show. We're honored to have him today once again as a guest. Dr. Hoegberg, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you, and feel free to call me David.
David, I am really excited about this issue. It seems like the D.C. Circuit Court may have gotten something right. Tell us about it.
Well, basically, there is a section in Obamacare that basically says that subsidies, premium subsidies for the exchanges, may only go can only go to state-based exchanges and not federal exchanges. However, the Internal Revenue Service interpreted it to mean that premium subsidies could go toward federal exchanges, and so a number of people have challenged that in court. And yesterday, the D.C. Circuit Court ruled that no, in fact, that the statute is clear, that it says only that subsidies can only go toward state exchanges. And after that, the court also tried to look at congressional intent. Well, did Congress actually intend for subsidies to go to federal exchanges, and hence was this just an error, an oversight on their part? And basically what they concluded is that there was no evidence one way or another for what Congress intended. It just wasn't out there. Now, I'm certain that, if you were to poll every Democrat who voted for this bill, if they wanted subsidies to go to federal exchanges, every one of them would say yes. But none of them said that at the time because, it really wasn't an issue. I mean, it wasn't really discovered that this particular part of the statute was in Obamacare until a year and a half after it was passed, and courts can't use as evidence something like what Congress might have said if they'd been asked the question. I mean, that doesn't count as evidence in courts, or at least it shouldn't. So the first the D.C. Circuit Court basically said, sorry, but there's no way around it. The Obamacare only allows subsidies to be used on state exchanges.
Well, I think maybe, too, some of these Democrats possibly could have been burned by their own agenda, which was to force states to create or to do what they could to try to force states or encourage states to create the state exchanges by offering the subsidy, but not offering it if they went through the federal exchange.
Well, to an extent, you're right. I mean, they were a bit burned by that because the section that this part of the statute is in deals with state exchanges, and at first it was basically the only part that in the law that it all had anything in there about exchanges, because Congress basically wanted to force states to set up exchanges. But someone realized, oh, hey, wait a minute, the Constitution doesn't allow the feds to force these things on states. So they left that section in there, and then they entered this new section that basically said if a state refuses to set up an exchange, the federal government can come in. But no one ever realized that there was this, part of the original the section on state exchanges that said, you only get a credit if it's you get insurance through a state exchange. They never altered that particular part. They never added anything into the part on federal exchanges regarding adding anything to it about premium subsidies. And it's basically a case of Nancy Pelosi's remark that we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it.
Yeah, and I think, the abusive process may have also contributed to some of this. It seems like the Democrats knew that they may lose control of Congress in the next election cycle. They were trying to push things through in the 11th hour in the middle of the winter, and I think maybe had they taken the time to go through the process properly, perhaps this situation could have been avoided. What do you think?
Well, that's certainly possible. I mean, there was a rush to get this done, but as far as I know, those sections of the bill had been around for a couple of months, and it just got overlooked. Was there, did the last minute rush maybe? Did that result in, say, forfeiting a final careful examination of the bill, or were they just not going to try to I mean is that what they lost with the rush? I mean that's certainly possible.
Yeah, and I did give the Democrats, progressive liberal Democrats, the benefit of the doubt when Nancy Pelosi was saying we've got to read the bill to find out what's in it. I really did think that was a smokescreen. I thought they fully knew what was in it, and they didn't want us to find out. Is it possible, David, that perhaps they didn't even realize what they were promoting fully?
Well, that's a good question, and since I can't really get exactly into their heads to know exactly what they were thinking, it's a little hard to answer that. What I can say is I certainly think that they didn't realize all the they had no clue with regard to all the unanticipated consequences of this bill.
That's probably exactly what we're dealing with right now. Well, we've got to go to a break right now, David. Can you hold on for about 2 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, great. Listeners, we are coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet, with our new Internet broadcast partners, CCRWorldwideMedia.com and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos Radio Show anytime, any day by calling 832-999-1199. We'll talk to you after the break.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I... Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia. And our guest this segment is Dr. David Hochberg. He's a healthcare policy analyst for the National Center for Public Policy Research. David, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
David,
thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. We always enjoy having you. That's why we have you on as much as we do. David, there was a lot of euphoria coming from the conservative side about this ruling coming out of the D.C. Circuit of Appeals, but right after that, not too far, there was another one that came out of Virginia that was just the opposite ruling.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now here you got the same law being looked at by two different courts, two different sets of judges, come up with two different verdicts.
Well, yeah, this is you're referring to the Fourth Circuit Court
Correct.
down in Richmond, and they looked at the law, and they actually agreed in one part with the Circuit Court of D.C. in that there is no evidence one way or another regarding Congress's intent. So once they dispensed with that, they basically looked at the IRS's interpretation of the statute and said, was that a reasonable interpretation? And basically what they used is what's known in legal circles as the Chevron deference. And it's based on a case years ago from the Supreme Court called Chevron versus the Natural Resources Defense Council. And basically what it says is that if a statute is vague, but the regulatory agency's interpretation of it, obviously in this case the IRS, is reasonable, then the court defers to that agency. And basically, the Fourth Circuit Court said, well, one of the very broad policy goals of of Obamacare is to provide a large number of people with insurance coverage, and providing subsidies on the exchange is consistent with that broad policy goal, and therefore it's a reasonable interpretation. I think where that arguably falls down is that the statute is really not that vague. It's pretty clear that you only get a premium subsidy if you're enrolled in a state-based exchange. That analysis may fall down, but now that we've got two different rulings, it will probably eventually find its way to the Supreme Court, and who knows what's going to happen there.
Anna, with that, I'll swing it back to you.
Okay. Well, I think it's important to be looking forward as to what these courts are going to do, David, because, we are kind of relying on them at this point. I mean, the legislation has been passed, the implementation has begun. There's nothing but problems. I mean, it's obviously one of the worst political footballs anybody could touch. And I don't think even the Democrats want to make an attempt to try to fix it at this point. So aren't we relying upon the judicial system to get us out of the mess that the faulty use of legislation by means of abusive process, in my estimation, has gotten us into?
Yeah, well, I actually think it's probably a mistake to rely on the courts, and I will say that I'm not particularly optimistic that the Supreme Court will uphold the D.C. Circuit Court, and that's just simply by looking at recent history, where in the case of the individual mandate, it became pretty clear afterwards, after the decision came down, that Chief Justice John Roberts was looking for a way to basically not expand the power under the Commerce Clause, but at the same time, preserve the individual mandate and therefore not, entirely undermine Obamacare. And basically what he joined the four liberal justices in saying that, no, you can't do this individual mandate under the commerce power of the Constitution, but it is legal as a tax, so you can go ahead and do it. I just don't think John Roberts really wants to be the one that undermines Obamacare for whatever reason that is. I think he would much prefer it to be handled by Congress and the President. And hence, I wouldn't be too surprised if you see another 5-4 ruling on this along the same lines. And then, we need to add to that is Justin Danhoff, who is our lawyer who works here, pointed out to me the other day that Justice Antonin Scalia, who's one of the most conservative members of the court, he is supposedly the expert on this sort of concept of Chevron deference and deferring to regulatory agencies, and that he's been pretty consistent over the years with regard to deferring to agencies in these matters, and so even he might not go along with it. So I just think it's a mistake really to rely on the courts to get this thing, Obamacare, overturned. We have to rely on getting enough people who are sympathetic to repealing Obamacare and replacing it with a free market alternative, elected to Congress and then elected to the White House. That's really what we need to do, and that may take some time.
David, can I interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
What you just said, is it possible now at this point to revert back to a free market system when it comes to health care? Are we already like water over the dam?
Well, very quickly, you say revert back to a free market system. We didn't have a free market system prior to Obamacare. Government has been long involved in health care and health insurance in the U.S., and we arguably haven't had a free market system since the 1940s, or was it the 1940s when we started allowing health insurance to be tax-free as long as you got it through an employer. all the market distortions that creates. So is it possible to go to a free market system? Yes. Does that mean, though, we're going to have to, for the time being at least, tolerate certain parts of Obamacare? Maybe the subsidies that have been given out through the exchanges, a few parts like that. Yes, but we can make those temporary. Say people that have those subsidies can keep them, but no one else gets a subsidy that way after a certain date. And so that over time, people will leave and go on to, say, Medicare, or they will leave that system and go on to whatever free market-based system that reformers come up with. But yes, it's very possible, and I think it will become even more possible as time goes on and this thing causes insurance premiums to rise even faster and healthcare costs to rise even faster. It's just going to create a much bigger problems down the road, and people will be ready for for reform, but conservatives have to be ready with their options, their ideas, and be ready to make the argument for them. Otherwise, the left will be ready with their single payer option, and if the conservatives and libertarians are not there, then people will look at the only other option that is being presented to them, which is single payer.
Dr. David Hochberg, Health Policy Analyst for the National Center for Public Policy Research. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow you and follow your writings and your opinions?
Oh, sure. Our website is just nationalcenter.org, and I blog regularly at conservativeblog.org.
David, thanks so much for joining us. We always appreciate learning from you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Take care. God bless. Hey, Anna, another great interview with Dr. David Hochberg. And I just want to remind our audience, if they'd like to hear a repeat broadcast of today's show at 9 p.m. this evening, and that's a new time, please log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us, vigilantlibertyradio.us, and that is a new blog site for our evening rebroadcast. And at 5 p.m., and just about 4 minutes from now, if you'd like to hear a repeat broadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos radio show, please log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. That's cprworldwidemedia.com. And don't forget, always click on those Listen Live links. And you can also hear our show, the Conservative Commandos radio show, anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199 from any telephone. Now, this is there are no extra charges for this call, but make sure that you use a phone that you have unlimited long-distance access to, or use your cell phone with unlimited minutes. We don't want you to have to pay anything more than you already do. Anna, we've had a great show. We've got about a minute. Anna, final thoughts?
Well, I think we need to watch the Middle East, and we need to watch Ukraine. Ukraine is for the action of Russia. The Middle East is for that caliphate that the ISIS is trying to complete there with the nuclear weapon power going to Iran. Is that going to become weapons? We've got to watch this. And we've got to stand up for our Christian brothers and sisters who are being persecuted and marched for death.
And I want to thank you for acting today as my co-host. I also want to thank our other guest, David Harnessy, and also Congressman Paul Brown, our most recent guest, Dr. David Hochberg. I want to thank Brett for working the boards. He always does a great job for us on Thursday. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.